For Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J, and this is what I think. The Las Vegas Raiders are in search of a new head coach, as the season has just ended with Antonio Pierce as the interim coach, and the Raiders having missed the playoffs once again. But the big story coming out of Raider camp is the fact that all-pro defensive end Maxx Crosby is adamant about the fact that he wants Antonio Pierce to become the full-time head coach. So adamant that Maxx Crosby is insinuating that he might actually seek a trade away from the Raiders if the Raiders do not hire Antonio Pierce on a full-time basis. Now, to put this in perspective, everyone knows that I'm a big-time Raider fan, and I have been for quite some time, and I've often related a lot of the issues with the Raiders to Derek Carr's 9 seasons as a starting quarterback. And during the time Derek Carr has been quarterback of the Raiders, he had 6 head coaches and 6 different offensive coordinators. And those didn't occur concurrently because when Jack Del Rio was the coach, Jack Del Rio had 2 different offensive coordinators during Derek Carr's tenure. But during 9 seasons as a Raider quarterback, Derek Carr has had 6 different head coaches. So to relate this to Maxx Crosby has just completed his 5th full season as a Raider. And during his 5 seasons, Maxx Crosby has had 4 different head coaches. He showed up during the Gruden era, which means he was there when Rich Bisaccia became the interim head coach and led the team to the playoffs, and then was not hired because Mark Davis chose Josh McDaniel to be the new head coach, and then Josh McDaniel was fired, and then Antonio Pierce was hired as the interim coach. So 5 seasons, 4 head coaches. So Maxx Crosby is tired of the revolving door of coaches, just as Derek Carr was tired of the revolving door of coaches, which is part of the reason why he ended up in New Orleans with Dennis Allen, because Dennis Allen was his first head coach and he wanted some semblance of normalcy. Maxx Crosby is saying that he might explore options if Antonio Pierce is not hired, and other players have made similar insinuations because they are tired of the revolving door of coaches. If you look at the situation that they are in, Maxx Crosby has been there 5 seasons and other players have been there just as long or longer, and you're looking at 4 different head coaches, and that's kind of ridiculous when you think about a team that is attempting to move itself forward. You can't move forward if you keep moving laterally by changing coaches and changing offenses or changing defenses or changing culture or changing climates. So when Maxx Crosby says, either make Antonio Pierce the coach or get me out of here, he's basically saying, I am tired of doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Get a coach, it doesn't work. Bring in a new coach, it doesn't work. Bring in a new coach, it doesn't work. Because if you think about the way the Raiders have performed over the last few years, when they had the big-time, big-swing head coaches, they were average ball clubs. But then when they brought in the interim coaches, Rich Bisaccia went 7-5 and led the team to the playoffs. Antonio Pierce had a 5-4 record and had the team 1 game short of the playoffs. So if you look at the Raiders' history in the last 5 years, they've taken big swings, missed, and had guys that the players could relate to, guys that would come in and just coach the team and weren't looking for headlines and weren't looking for spotlight and weren't trying to institute their system and show that they were the smartest guy in the room. And this was the first season that the Raiders didn't have a bottom 5 defense, and they were really close to getting into the playoffs. They didn't make it, but they were close. But Mark Davis, in his history, is going to make a big swing. He's going to interview John Harbaugh. He's going to interview Mike Vrabel. He's going to interview Bill Belichick, maybe Pete Carroll. He's going to interview all these big-name coaches and try to take a big swing and go, yeah, we need a big-name coach so that we can, and then he won't be able to finish the sentence because he doesn't know what we can is going to lead to. Because you can bring in a big-name coach, but football is not the same as basketball. You can bring in a big-name coach, but if that big-name coach doesn't know how to coach your players, or if that big-name coach insists on instituting his system instead of coaching the players that are there, it's going to be the same result. You're not going to do well, the team's going to flounder, and players are going to be discontented. Maxx Crosby is discontented. He is tired of switching coaches, he is tired of switching systems, and he wants some semblance of normalcy. If you pay attention to the news and the stories about the coaching carousel in the NFL right now, the Tennessee Titans are looking to have conversations with Antonio Pierce for their head coaching job. And as I said in the previous commentary, there's a very good chance that the Raiders will take a big swing and Antonio Pierce will be left holding the bag. So Antonio Pierce is taking the interview with Tennessee. And at the same time, Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator who under Josh McDaniels had the Raiders with a bottom 5 defense, but who under Antonio Pierce had the Raiders with a top 10 defense, is also taking interviews for defensive coordinator positions with other ball clubs. So if Maxx Crosby gets his way, then he gets to keep Antonio Pierce and he gets to keep Patrick Graham. But if he doesn't get his way, then that means the Raiders have a new head coach, the Raiders have a new defensive coordinator, and the Raiders will have to go find a new edge rusher because Maxx Crosby will be taking his talents somewhere else. So, Mark Davis, as an open letter to you, you need to understand that the players are the commodity. And if the players want to play for Antonio Pierce, you should at least give them the opportunity, as your father would say, to have their hearts broken before you make a change. Because your father never wanted to draft Marcus Allen, but he did so he could say, I told you so, to the general manager who did want to draft Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen became a Rookie of the Year, an MVP, and a Super Bowl MVP, a several-time Pro Bowler, and ended up in the Hall of Fame. So your dad was wrong then, and you will probably be wrong now if you don't go with Antonio Pierce. Remember to like and share this video and subscribe to this channel and visit the Eric J on Sports website and follow me on Facebook at Eric J on Sports 1 and on Instagram and Twitter at Eric J on Sports. And for Eric J on Sports, I'm Eric J and this is what I think.